This week on Jerusalem Dateline, watching the red lines. New reports that chemical weapons have been used in Syria. How will the U.S. respond? Why Iran is watching. Plus, a child's heart. From across the globe, kids of all faiths and races come to Israel for life-saving treatments. And Iran is one of the most dangerous places on the planet for Christians. Yet Sweden is trying to force Christians to go back. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Will the United States take military action against Syria? The president said he still needs more evidence that Syria is using chemical weapons before he makes a decision. The world is watching to see what the U.S. will do in Syria, while Israel has to make its own decision whether to use military action against Iran. Syrian opposition groups released this video showing what they say are some of the dozens of people killed or sickened in a chemical weapons attack by the Assad government. Back in March, President Obama issued a warning.
To use potential weapons of mass destruction on civilian populations crosses another line, and that is going to be a game changer.
Since then, British, French, and Israeli intelligence all concluded that the Assad government did conduct a chemical attack. And last week, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel agreed. But the White House is reluctant to call it a game changer for the U.S. in Syria.
Now, we are working to establish credible and corroborated facts to build on this intelligence assessment in order to establish a definitive judgment as to whether or not the president's red line has been crossed, and to inform our decision-making about next steps.
Israeli Middle East analyst Jonathan Spire says both U.S. friends and foes in the region are watching.
It's now very apparent that the regime has used chemical weapons on a number of occasions, which means that if the United States now fails to act on its clear red line, then of course conclusions will be drawn in that regard by all other players in the region, including some players very hostile to the United States, such as Iran.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham went even further this week on CBS Face the Nation.
If we keep this hands-off approach to Syria, this indecisive action towards Syria, kind of not knowing what we're going to do next, we're going to have a war with Iran, because Iran's going to take our inaction in Syria as meaning we're not serious about their nuclear weapons program.
But as distasteful as Assad is to the U.S., the Syrian opposition features a strong presence by al-Qaeda, a decided U.S. enemy. One option in the U.S. arsenal: strikes from the air or sea on the Syrian chemical weapons facilities and production plants scattered throughout the country. But that is a subject the administration won't address in the media.
My role is to present to the president, and my responsibility, options for any contingency. I won't speculate on those options nor publicly discuss those options.
President Obama's red line on Syria is a big enough problem for the Middle East, but here in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Netanyahu has to deal with an even more dangerous red line, the one leading to a nuclear Iran.
A red line should be drawn right here. Before Iran completes the second stage of nuclear enrichment necessary to make a bomb.
Just months after Netanyahu's red line speech to the UN last fall, former Israeli military intelligence chief Amos Yadlin said that Iran has now crossed that red line, or is at least right at the threshold. The U.S. red line involves Iran actually building a weapon, while the Israeli red line tries to prevent Iran from getting nuclear capability, and before it reaches the breakout stage of producing a weapon.
The red line has been crossed. A lot now depends on the Iranian decision in this regard, and certainly Israel will be watching very, very carefully. And if the Iranians make that decision, there will be a little window of opportunity in which Israel will then have to make the absolute decision either to attack or to accept that nuclear Iran is going to come into being, or of course to rely on the American willingness to attack further down the line when the American red line looks like it's about to be reached.
So, while Western governments debate what they might do, Israel is strengthening its defenses in the Golan Heights, on a border with Syria that has been mostly quiet for 40 years, because the red lines being talked about now in Washington appear to lead straight to Israel's borders. We talk more about the situation in Syria with Middle East expert Jonathan Spire. Jonathan, you were just in Syria just a couple of months ago. Can you describe the situation right now, what it's like there?
Well, I would say that the ongoing stalemate, which is apparent between the regime and the rebels, in which the regime retains control of the main urban areas of the country and in total around a third of the territory of Syria, that stalemate remains and has not been broken, in spite of the improved capabilities of the rebels, in spite of the better weaponry reaching them, and in spite of the attempts which they've made in the first months of the year to break that stalemate. We're now seeing it's not been broken, and the regime, in fact, has had a good couple of weeks over the last 2 weeks. You know, it's been actually pushing back in some areas.
You know, the Syrian situation seems to present a dilemma to the West, and particularly the U.S. Is there any options that they have? Any good options right now?
I would say the options are either to increase backing for the rebels and against the regime to bring the situation to a close as soon as possible and then deal with the consequences, or to effectively withdraw from the situation, make it clear that the two sides simply have to fight it out between them. It's an internal Syrian matter, and to make clear that the borders are secure. You know, either decision is okay, it's a decision, but if the US fails to make a decision, it runs the risk of being seen to be indecisive and vacillating and losing, so to speak, strategic credit in the region as a result of that.
And there's a lot of talk in the U.S. and Washington about supporting the rebels, but who are they?
Really, there are three main rebel alliances right now fighting on the ground in Syria. The most extreme of them is the Jabhat al-Nusra, which we know about, which is effectively the Syrian branch of Al-Qaeda. There's another larger alliance called the Syrian Islamic Front, which consists of not Al-Qaeda, but Salafi Islamist fighting groups, up to probably about 15,000 fighters. And then there is a still larger group called the Syrian Islamic Liberation. This largest group is effectively associated with Muslim Brotherhood type ideology. So we have an insurgency split into a number of different alliances. All of the alliances are effectively Sunni Islamist in outlook, ranging from the very extreme Al-Qaeda type outlook across to the Muslim Brotherhood type outlook. Important to stress, there is no real, notable, visible, secular fighting force on the ground. They don't really exist. They may still exist in the imagination of some supporters of the Syrian rebellion. They're not really visible on the ground.
And finally, Jonathan, what threat does this situation in Syria pose to Israel right now?
Weapon systems, which would be of extreme danger to Israel, can find their way into the hands of terrorists who would then wish to use them against Israel. It's important to note there are powerful Islamist terrorist forces on both sides in this Syrian civil war. On the pro-regime side, of course, the Hezbollah organization. On the rebel side, groups associated with Al-Qaeda and extreme Sunni Islamism. Were either of those groups to get their hands, for example, on chemical weapons, or even on sophisticated anti-aircraft missile systems, for example, this would be a game changer from an Israeli point of view. I think Israel's concerned about that, has set a clear red line, and has made clear if it needs to, it will intervene to prevent that from happening.
Well, Jonathan, I appreciate your insight and expertise in what's happening on Israel's northern border in the Middle East here in Syria.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Up next, how to live in the age of terror attacks. What Israelis have to offer to the citizens of Boston.
Today we're on a field trip to discover what inflation is doing to our paper money. In this hand is a $20 bill, and in this hand is a $20 US gold coin. They used to have the same buying power, but how much can they buy today? In this first basket is what my $20 bill buys: milk, bread, peanut butter, and jelly. And here's what one $20 gold coin will buy: 6 baskets full, worth nearly $2,000, almost 100 times more food, simply by owning gold dollars instead of paper dollars. History shows that the gold coins have been the best way to beat the rising cost of living. So class, the moral is that unless you want to live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the future, you should turn some paper dollars into gold coins now. How and why is explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. Call the number below for a totally free copy. And that's the simple truth.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was.
Help!
And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a medical alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free medical alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
The trauma from the Boston Marathon bombings will stay with Americans for a long time. Israelis can identify. Just a few years ago, they endured one of the worst terror campaigns in modern history and still live with the threat of terror. It's been a learning experience, but one they can share with America. The frightening images from the Boston Marathon bombing went global in a matter of hours. For many Israelis, it brought back memories of their own terror attacks. Take a walk around Jerusalem and you'll find memorials like this one. They mark the many terror attacks that happened during a period known as the Second Intifada. From September 2000 to 2004, nearly 1,000 Israelis died in those attacks and thousands more were wounded. This stone commemorates an attack on February 22, 2004. 8 Israelis died in that attack, including 2 18-year-olds.
It's a terrible thing to have so much pain and suffering, and families really changed forever from this kind of an event. And such a fun event as I remember as a child, going out onto Com Ave and watching the marathon, that kind of event will have that memory associated with it.
Debbie Garner grew up in Boston and now lives in Israel with her family. She knows what it's like to live in the terror shadow.
You know, you realize that sort of welcome to the club. You know, we live it day to day, and now unfortunately Boston's sort of into that club and having to take precautions that maybe weren't having to be taken in previous years.
This is something that may be one of the biggest lessons that the Americans can and should learn practically from that horrific event.
Terror expert Boaz Ganor admits it's almost impossible to screen every spectator in an event like the Boston Marathon.
But there is another tier of activity, and this is public awareness. Some refers to that as resilience. I think that public awareness in counterterrorism is an integral part of resilience. And the American is resilient in many ways, but on that respect, they need to be much more resilient and much more aware to their surroundings.
Police officer Mickey Rosenfeld saw public awareness in action. A local shopkeeper noticed a suspicious package, called police, and warned bystanders.
I remember that specific day being at the scene, which was in March in 2011. When the phone and the line was still open, he also asked members of the public to move out of the area because of this suspicious bag and suitcase. And what happened was, when he was on the line, so the explosion took place, and in fact, if he wouldn't have moved those members of the public out of the area, a lot of people would have been killed that day.
One person died and dozens were wounded, but it could have been much worse.
But that just goes to show what it is about public awareness, that as soon as people see a bag or an object, immediately they call the police, and in fact work specifically in the first few seconds in order to try and make sure that people aren't in any specific danger.
While these things may be second nature for Israelis, Garner feels these lessons must be taught around the world.
So I think, first of all, everyone should be aware of their surroundings at any point in time, wherever you are in the world. I mean, one day it's Boston, one day it's Tel Aviv, and one day it's Kathmandu. You know, you really don't know what's going to happen any day. But not to live life in panic or in fear all the time either. And certain precautions need to be taken.
Coming up, Iranian Christians flee to Sweden for safety. Now they're in danger of being sent back.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need, just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Welcome back. Christians in Iran faced arrest, torture, even death. Some of those Christians are seeking asylum in Sweden, but Swedish immigration officials are planning to send them back to Iran. Dale Hurd has that story from Stockholm.
Iran is one of the most dangerous places in the world for Christians, but that's exactly where the Swedish government intends to send these former Muslims. Their request for asylum that could save their lives, denied. The Swedish government's attitude toward Iranian Christians facing deportation would seem to be as cold as the Swedish winter. The Iranians say Sweden's immigration board simply does not care that they may face prison or torture if they're returned to Iran. Reza Jabari has been in hiding after his asylum request was rejected. He knows what awaits him in Iran.
In the Islam, it's Sharia. If every Muslim man who leaves the Islam must be killed because this man is apostate.
His pastor, Kai Berger, still can't believe Reza's asylum request was denied.
And I thought, this should be a piece of cake. I mean, this man has brought other Muslims to the Christian faith and the Christian baptism. I mean, if he's a fraud, he's a very bad one. He's bringing people to a Christian faith. But still, they denied him. That made me look into what is going on.
What's going on, according to veteran Swedish immigration lawyer Gabriel Donner, is a badly run asylum process and, in some cases, anti-Christian bias.
When you apply for asylum, you have to present your case. If you claim that you are a convert, you need to show some evidence of having converted.
But Donner says that crucial evidence is often missing from asylum applications because too many state-appointed lawyers don't include it, leaving the asylum seekers at the mercy of immigration officials who may not understand Swedish law, what it means to be a Christian, or how dangerous Iran is.
All of this together results in a sort of lottery, where some people win and some people lose.
Some of the losers are Ali, his wife Mahtab, and their little girl Serena. They're Iranian Christians who left Islam and they now face deportation.
We have told our families in Iran that we are Christian now, and they have disowned us. So we don't have a family to return to. Our blood is now halal. It's holy for Muslims to kill us.
Mahtab says a Swedish immigration official actually tried to comfort her by saying yes, they probably would be thrown into an Iranian prison, but not killed. Homera is another Iranian Christian facing deportation. She's in hiding and says when she tried to testify about her Christian faith to immigration officials, they thought she was lying.
Officials do not seem to understand why a Muslim would become a Christian. They asked me, why didn't you become a Jew?
Reza Jabari says an immigration official told him that when he's deported to Iran, all he needs to do is tell everyone he's a Muslim, not a Christian, and he'll be fine.
There's a lot of bias regarding Christian converts because the standard argument is, well, nobody converts to Christianity out of true belief. Why would anybody do anything of the sort?
Mikael Ribbenvik, director of operations for the Swedish Migration Board, describes an agency that seems to be overwhelmed by asylum seekers.
And we have about 1,000 people coming every week. Then, of course, we have to have a proper procedure and give people answers in due time. If we say no, you can go to the courts. But, of course, the volume in the system is a challenging task for us.
But it shouldn't be hard for Swedish officials to understand that Iran is a very dangerous place for Christians. The case of Pastor Youssef Nardakani brought worldwide attention when he was convicted of apostasy and sentenced to death before being acquitted. Just a few weeks ago in Washington, a congressional hearing heard from Iranian Christian Nagma Abadini, whose husband, Pastor Saeed Abadini, an American citizen, has been given an 8-year prison sentence for threatening Iran's national security. He was building an orphanage.
He was in prison because he loved Jesus.
Pastor Saeed's attorneys say his client's 8-year sentence amounts to death. He's already been tortured and beaten in prison and has internal bleeding. Reza was a famous singer in Iran and refused to help the Islamic regime, getting him in trouble before and making him an even bigger target if he's sent back.
He's been put in prison. They try to recruit him as an informant. We don't know what's going to happen to him in prison. Is he being tortured? Is he being left alone? We don't know this.
But these Christians all told us they've given their situations to God.
Jesus accepted me. And now I'm very free.
We asked Sweden's Migration Board if it understood the danger faced by Christian converts sent back to Iran. It said it did. Donner said that makes what Sweden is doing to these asylum seekers all the more damning.
The history books will say something pretty nasty about Sweden's policy in this matter in the future.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, Stockholm.
Coming up, Healing Hearts. We'll tell you how one group is reaching across borders and religious divides to save the lives of children. When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new GripGo, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and GripGo grabs your phone ultra fast. Then it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of GripGo. You can get the amazing GripGo with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete GripGo systems for just $14.95.
To order GripGo for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline. 3 Iraqi children came to Israel this month for open heart surgery. Even though Israel has no diplomatic ties with Iraq, these doctors are performing life-saving surgery on these children. It's all part of Save a Child's Heart that treats children with congenital heart defects from many nations, including Iraq, Ethiopia, Sudan, and even the Palestinian Authority. Julie Stahl brings us one girl's story.
These children look happy, healthy, and active. But just weeks ago, each one of them faced death. They needed open-heart surgery, and they got it through Save a Child's Heart in Israel.
The idea behind Save a Child's Heart is to provide life-saving heart surgery for children from developing countries.
That was the case with Esther, a Christian from the Maasai tribe in Tanzania. Rheumatic fever damaged her heart, and she couldn't get the necessary help in her own country. She became the 2,500th patient of Save a Child's Heart.
Her heart was huge. She was very limited in a very simple task. Even simple walking, it was difficult for her.
Sister Angelica runs the children's home where Esther lives. She heard about the program from a volunteer who just happened to be riding the same bus from Kenya to Tanzania. Angelica contacted Save a Child's Heart and learned a team was actually heading to Tanzania to climb Mount Kilimanjaro 2 days later. One of the doctors, Dr. Godwin Godfrey, is Tanzanian.
Actually, for me, it looks like a miracle.
They met Esther, saw she needed surgery urgently, and 2 months later, she was in Israel. Dr. Lior Sasson operated for hours, reconstructing the valve in Esther's heart.
Now she can live a normal life. She would have to take preventive medicine that her valve would not be affected again.
Executive Director Simon Fisher says more than 50% of the children treated have been Palestinian from the West Bank and the Gaza Strip.
We believe that Save a Child's Heart has a very positive message which it sends out from the Middle East, from Israel, about people working together from different nationalities and different religions for the best of our children.
Part of the program's goal is to train doctors from developing countries, like Dr. Godfrey, who will work in Israel for 5 years.
This training will be one of its kind for my country, so hopefully when I go back, I will actually start the open heart surgery also for the young children.
Before and after surgery, the children live in this house, usually with a parent or caregiver. House mother Laura Cassis says the change in the children is amazing.
You see the children going home healthy. You know, you see children that sometimes can barely walk, practically running to the gate and to the minibus to go to the airport, and they're smiling and they're looking forward to going home, and you know that they have a future.
Less than 2 weeks after her surgery, Esther was dancing with her newfound friends and sang us a song she sings at home.
I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Holon, Israel.
That's one of the sometimes untold good news stories coming out of Israel. That's all for this edition. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.